Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I think we're good to start. We have more than 100 participants already. We have participants from all over the country. That's how it looks like. And of course, outside India as well. So I'm Ritvik from Talent Sprint. I'd like to just take a couple of minutes and for the benefit of everyone, would like to explain who we are and what this is all about. As Talent Sprint, we are a deep tech scaling company, and we have partnered with premium institutions like IIT Kanpur, IISc Bangalore, IIT Hyderabad, IIM Calcutta, IIT Hyderabad, and even global corporations like Google, Pegasystems, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism. Just a few months back, we've been majority acquired by National Stock Exchange Group company, and our primary motto is to enable our young professionals and of course even senior professionals advance in their career and be prepared for the new AI driven world. So this what industry wants is a new initiative that we have started where senior industry professionals are invited to share their industry insights on the deep tech trends and what kind of opportunities are available for people out there and what it takes for people to tap into such kind of opportunities and build a career. For today's What Industry Wants session, we have invited Mr. Zain Inhonvi, who is the lead for university relations at Flipkart. Flipkart is one of the leading IT product companies in India, and it's a great place to work at, and many people aspire to work there. So it's a pleasure that he has agreed to come and interact with us. But due to an unforeseen and unavoidable circumstance, we will not be able to have a live interaction with him. In the last minute, we had to change, but he was kind enough to connect with us about a couple of hours back and answer to the many questions that we have received from our audience much before this event started itself. So we have our senior director, Mr. Vikas Bansali, who will be engaging in a conversation with Mr. Zain, asking him all the questions which we have received, and he'll be answering them. It's a recorded video. We'd like you to see it, and you can also ask your questions. We will be sharing a Google form with all of you where you can type down your questions, as many questions as you have, and we will try and revert to each of the questions that you have on your mind. So I would now request the technical team to play the recording between Mr. Vikas Bansali and Mr. Zain from Flipkart.
Hi everyone, good evening. Welcome to the second edition of What Industry Wants series by Talent Sprint, a NSE Group company. I hope you and your families are safe and taking all the necessary precautions. I am Vikas Bansali, and I'm leading the corporate alliances and career development portfolio at Talent Sprint, focusing at bringing better career outcomes for our trainees. And we are excited to reinitiate the series, and it is a pleasure to host Mr. Zain Inhonvi as our industry guest partner for the first episode. And so Zain is an HR professional with 7+ years of experience. He currently leads the product and engineering hiring at Flipkart. And prior to this, had been associated with Tata Consultancy Services, or TCS, in multiple roles in the talent acquisition space. And today, Zain and I will address through some of the frequently asked questions by students, working professionals, academicians. And these questions have been handpicked and curated, and we'll hear Zain's perspectives and thoughts on them. So hi Zain, can we start with the session?
Hey Vikas, thank you so much for having me here and for the nice introduction. Glad to be part of the session and hope that we'll be able to address some of the queries which are there, and the others we can always take up offline during.
Perfect, Zain. Looking forward to hear your thoughts. So Zain, one of the most common questions and one of the most frequent questions which come up. So as a product company, Flipkart as a product company, as an e-commerce company, what are the key skills you look out for or you hire for?
Interesting, and I think I'll divide it into two parts, Vikas, because part is that what are the roles that a company like Flipkart hires from campus, and then the skills related to those roles. So when we visit campus, the key engineering campuses that we have, right? The skills that we hire for would be dependent on, say, if we are hiring for a software development engineer or a data scientist or an associate product manager or an associate business analyst. These are the primary 4 roles that we go on campus for. There are a few other roles as well, but those are pretty niche, so I'll skip those and keep the focus on these 4 areas, and then we'll discuss in depth on what is required. So for software development engineer, the key ask is problem solving and knowledge on data structures and algorithms. They form the base of the test that we have as well as the interview process. So students who are aspiring to become software development engineers have to ensure that their programming skills, their knowledge on data structures, algorithms is top notch to have a shot at that. The other role that we hire for is the data scientist profile. Again, a very niche profile and something which is staying and probably will is a hot skill and will continue to be a hot skill in the coming decade as well, because the amalgamation of AI, machine learning, NLP, all these factors combine to form the base of a data scientist. So those are the key skills we look for in a data scientist. There is also a sub role known as a decision scientist as well, and this is more focused on the analytics space. This is a new role that we have started hiring from campus. Earlier we used to do it as a lateral, but decision scientist is also a new role that's come up. Coming to the associate business analyst role that we hire from campuses, this we open to engineering campuses for a reason, that we have a lot of best minds in engineering, and some of them are keen not to go into a core engineering profile but would want to come into analytics, and that's where the ABA role fits in. And we are looking at people who are very good at the numbers space, are good at say statistics, have knowledge on R, Python, etc. So those are the key skill sets from that role perspective. And then a very sought after program that Flipkart runs on engineering campuses is the associate product manager role. And this is sought after because it gives the students who come into the program a shot at product management, something which is ideally reserved for B schoolers who are in the Ivy League campuses, right? So the APM program looks at problem solving, product thinking as the two main pivots for us when we are looking at hiring from. So this is a quick analysis of the key roles and what are the key skills, Vikas.
Great, great. Thanks for sharing these details. So when you mention about this test, this is like an in-house test, or this is with an like, or is it like designed by Flipkart, or is it designed by a separate vendor? Is it like an in-house test?
So the test, Vikas, just to reiterate, the test that we have is primarily for the software development engineer role. The other two roles which are there, the ABA and the APM, there is a separate selection process for that. But I'll talk about the software development engineer test that we have. So that's primarily a DSA based test. There would be 3 questions, a 90-minute time frame, and candidates have to solve those problems. And it could be on a platform which could be, like for example, this year we went ahead with Aspiring Minds SHL, and they are the vendor partners. The questions are curated by Flipsters. We give our inputs, we decide on the difficulty levels and other aspects, and then it is the vendor who will actually deliver the test to the candidate. And since we did everything virtually last year, and this year also looks to be an entire virtual hiring season, the candidates have full flexibility to give it from anywhere, as long as they have a laptop or a desktop, a webcam, a mic, and that's it. All the necessary stuff like proctoring and ensuring that authentic candidates give the test are taken care of through the partnership with the vendor.
Understood. And thanks for answering to that question. So next question, I'll come to the next question. Now, in terms of hiring, what are some of the major challenges from hiring standpoint for specifically roles within deep tech, new age technology? So you mentioned roles like data science, and you mentioned roles within data science, the decision scientist. These are quite niche roles, as like you mentioned, these are quite niche roles. So according to you, what are some of the major challenges from hiring standpoint which you guys have?
See, there are again multiple aspects to the challenges. One I would say is India as a talent house has enough talent across the spectrum. There's no dearth of talent. The ideal thing for organizations is to ensure that they give platforms where the students can express their ideas and thoughts. That is a good way to do it. When we come to the deep tech space, right, where we're talking about machine learning, AI, some gap that we usually see is the ability of students in the campuses to actually play with real data. So when we're talking about developing algorithms which can solve problems, right? So it could be related to voice, it could be related to images, text. Having real data is one of the gaps, and organizations are trying to bridge that gap by doing hackathons, sharing certain sample sets, etc. But the reach is still not that wide, and that's where I think the quality also dips a bit. If a candidate does not have that access to data to play around with, the model will never be as accurate as required, and would not have that exposure as well to how to go about handling the scale of things. For Flipkart, again, everything is at a very massive scale. We handle tons of data, right? Terabytes of services there. So it even becomes important. And if I talk about not just Flipkart, the larger IT industry as well, I think it is a similar challenge in deep tech. It's the scale and it is the complexity which somehow has to go to the academia, and it has to be work together.
Right. Quite insightful, Zain. My next question, which is quite linked to this this question, is what do you feel? How important is it to upskill oneself and creating sub specializations for oneself compared to a plain vanilla graduation program like BTech, like a BCom or a BSc or a BBA, or a BA? How important is it to upskill oneself and create sub specializations for oneself?
Upskilling is crucial at this stage, since the audience that we are interacting with is primarily the engineering people who are actually at the start of their career, right? For them, it is important, and even for people who are in the mid levels, it also becomes very, very critical that you are always upskilling yourself. If you're a BTech or say a MTech grad, and you're doing well in what is being taught on campus and you're doing certain extra courses, that's perfectly fine. But you should always try to not just do a certificate for the sake of it, is what I feel, but for the learnings associated with it. And today we have so many resources which are available, some of them free, some of them paid, right? And a mix of those can actually help the students crack the interviews in a better way. Because what happens is that the competition is intense for hiring space, right?
True.
Everyone would want to get into the best org, and that's where the bar becomes higher. And if you, as a plain vanilla graduate, compared to somebody who's done a specialist kind of a course in, say, AI ML, and you're applying for a data science role, it will reflect positively at the screening stage. And if you've actually learned, then you can crack the interview in a better way if you have that exposure apart from the regular stuff that you learn on campus.
So then upskilling is absolutely crucial, and learning, of course, is the most important factor. Yeah. So Zain, you just mentioned that there's so many resources available, and be it some of them are free, some of them are you would have to pay to upskill yourself and to learn. How do you choose? How do you choose which one or where you can upskill from, or what should be the right program for you? How do you choose? Is there a way, is there a thought process you have, which you, like a tip which you want to share? How do you choose that?
I would have my bit of advice. I'm not sure, how relevant it would be for each of the.
Yeah, of course, it's your
yeah.
advice.
See, when I see today the kind of exposure and the kind of content which is there on platforms like LinkedIn or even a YouTube, right, where people are eagerly waiting to share how their interviews went, how the test went, how to crack the test. And you see a lot of edtech platforms coming up, which will talk about how to prepare. And even Talent Sprint, for that matter, is into that space where you will have that expertise and you'll be able to guide the students in a better way. So what I would suggest is that the journey should start through the freely available resources. You can go to LinkedIn, you can go to YouTube, and you can go to your seniors and campus, right, who have been placed in these firms. Try to get the insights from them as a first stage, assess where you are, practice, and then to augment that further, then you can have those certificate courses that you can do, which will help you. If straight away, you jump into a paid course where your basics are also not clear, it may be a challenge. So my tip would be first explore yourself, then assess that yes, this is what I need to do to land my dream job, and accordingly take up certificate courses or other certifications which might be there available.
Great, great. Thanks again for sharing that advice, Zen. So Zen, now another a very important question, which I'm sure would help a lot of students who are part of our audience. What are, according to you, what are like top 3 or maybe top 5 preparation tips for early career professionals to successfully clear an interview with Flipkart, which is like an aspirational company for many of the students, many of the trainees? What are like some of the tips, if you can share? How can they prepare well for the interview?
Definitely, I think it's important that you prepare well for the org that you have in target. And if it's Flipkart, and if the role is software development engineer, how you should go about it. As I said in my previous answer as well, try to connect with seniors who have cracked the process. They would guide you in a much better way that, hey, this is what you need to do, or these are the resources that you need to take into account. If you don't know any alum, go to YouTube. You'll find a lot of self-help videos sharing their experiences. Once you've done that, practice. So the first stage for an SD1 on campus at Flipkart is the DSA based test. So try to practice. There are a lot of platforms available where you can practice. That's what is going to make you perfect. And the questions may be different when you give the actual test, but once you have that practice, you'll be able to crack it in a much easier way compared to just coming up on the day of the test unprepared. So that is the step 1. Step 2 would primarily be once you've cleared the test, the second stage is the interview process. And at times you may not have too much of gap between the test and the interview. So parallelly, if you're preparing for the test, I would suggest you also start preparing for the interview process. Again, as a first step, go through self-prep videos which are available, and then try to give mock interviews. Take help from seniors, take help from your peers who may have been working with not just Flipkart, it could be any tech firm, right? Get some idea on what to expect. At Flipkart, when we're hiring for software development engineer, the key pivots that we look at are problem solving and data structures and algorithms. That is what is touched upon. And what we look at from a technical standpoint is, are you able to come up with the right approach to the problem given by the panel? Are you able to take hints appropriately, or do you require no hand holding, which is a plus? Or if you're not able to pick up hints, that's a red flag. So try to do these mock interviews where a senior could guide you that, hey, this is how you approach a problem, this is how you pick up hints, or ask for hints as well, and then how you close the discussion as well. And then apart from the technical discussion, there is also a hiring manager discussion which happens at Flipkart, where the assessment is primarily to see if you will fit within the Flipkart culture. So go through the Flipkart page, Flipkart careers page, go through the values, see how it aligns with what you have done in your past. And if you're able to bring some alignment between what you have done and what Flipkart values are, I think you may be able to do better in the hiring manager round as well. So tech round is fairly, you will find a lot of resources. Hiring manager rounds are where this tip will help you all. And if it is about, say, a role like a data scientist, or say a associate product manager, or an associate business analyst, again, the steps are similar. Speak to people, see what is the assessment process like. And today nothing is hidden, everything is on Google. You just go there and you'll find all the resources you need to prep up, and then go about following the same set of stages where you prep for the interview, do mock interviews, and do mock tests to enable yourselves.
Great. So Zain, so just to reiterate, couple of important points just for the benefit of the audience. Just to reiterate, mock interviews are really important to prepare for the test is really important. Mock tests, speak to people, interaction with seniors. That is again very important. Interaction with your alums, with your alumni is really important. Your right approach in problem solving has to be really important. Picking up hints, asking for hints is really important. Am I right, Zain?
Correct. Because see, when you're in an interview, right, and a problem is posed to you, you might get overwhelmed. You might not understand the problem in the first go. So it's always okay to say to the interviewer that, "Hey, can you give me some hints, or can you guide me better?" I think that's a positive response, because it shows to the interviewer that you're listening, and if you have doubts, you're ready to ask questions. You're not like, you will not dare to ask questions. That's something that you would not want at Flipkart. We like people who ask questions,
Right.
are inquisitive, and are ready to take guidance if they've not got it right the first time.
Right. And actually, it shows that you're really curious about the role, and you're really invested in the role. Yeah.
And I think one more bit is the confidence aspect, which specifically comes into the foray, not just during the technical interviews, but also during the hiring manager discussions. A lot of time people feel that if a director or somebody at a senior level, hey, should I ask X question or a Y question or something like that, right? You have a lot of innovations. And at Flipkart, we pride to say that we are a very flat, or everyone goes by their first name, be it the CEO or intern who's joined. So feel free during the interviews to address people by their first name. Be confident in your approach. Don't be overconfident, or wherein you. When I say overconfidence, it is primarily on the front of coming across as too abashed, right? So
Right.
Being confident is also one of the key aspects.
And that's a very thin line. Confident and overconfidence is a very thin line.
And I think when they do the mock interviews with us, right, that's where somebody would be able to guide them.
Right.
That, hey, look, you're doing this. And if you record, like in a virtual environment, obviously, even the mock interviews that you do with your peers or seniors will be virtual. So it's a best practice if you record those interviews, have a look at how you were, doing, what was your body language, and that will help you improve further.
Right, right. And also, just for the benefit of our audience, would you be able to name few of the platforms where the students and trainees can practice, can do the mock tests? Like, would you happen to know any of the platforms, or which are like effective and which can help them practice well?
See, I'm sure there are a lot. I won't want to specify, because then what happens is that people will only rush to those platforms. But I would say first, again, as I said, go to a LinkedIn or a YouTube, try to search for that particular org that you're aiming for, and there you will get it. Quora is again a good resource where you get a lot of your questions answered, right? And try to see from an org perspective that, okay, this is the org I'm aiming for, suppose Flipkart, right? And try to see avenues via which you can get into the org. So if you're a fresher and you want to get into Flipkart, campus is one route, but then there are initiatives like Grid, which is our engineering challenge. There is Wired, which is our B School challenge. We have Girls Wanna Code. We have Runway, which we launched. Similarly, other organizations, if you're aiming for, you would have other programs running in, and within these programs, you'll find a lot of value. Similarly, from my earlier discussions with Talent Sprint, that Talent Sprint also does a lot of work on programs, right? And students who are part of the platform get additional advantages when they prep with them. Similarly, there are other platforms, right? Like I know I'm taking a few names, but I think that's pretty much fine. There are you can go to a Hacker, you can go to a Hacker Rank, you can go to Code Chef. You see on LinkedIn people proudly saying that, hey, I'm a 5-star on XYZ platform, right? Or I'm a GWC scholar. So there are a lot of platforms. There's no single platform that I would suggest. But yeah, it's an open space. You can go and learn anywhere you want. You need not even need a laptop for that matter. To start off with, you can do it on your mobile, and then you can learn to code and further do it on a laptop or a desktop at your campus as well.
Right. Thanks, and thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So, Zain, so coming to the next question, so to this ongoing pandemic, is there a change in hiring strategy? Do you feel there is a change in the hiring strategy? For example, I mean, compared to full-time roles, is there a pattern that these roles are changed to intern to higher roles? And is there a change in the hiring strategy? Is there a conscious decision in this pattern?
No, because like when the pandemic in fact first hit us last year, right? Flipkart was
Yeah.
one of the first orgs to go to the campuses and tell them that, hey, look, the internships that we have offered, the FT roles that we've offered, everything remains as is, just that it will be entirely virtual. So no worries on that front, and that helped them a lot. Because there were a lot of firms which revoked offers and changed their hiring strategy, saying that, hey, if I've offered FT, I'll convert it to intern, etc. At Flipkart, nothing of that sort has happened. We continue to leverage both channels when one is campus, which is ship and full-time roles, and there is your contest-based hiring through Grid and other contests that we have. That continues as is, and we don't see a transfer of FT roles to intern and vice versa. It will continue as is, and the only difference which I've seen in hiring strategies is that everything's gone virtual. Everything has become more flexible, which is a boon for panels who earlier had to spend a lot of time traveling, right? So
Yeah.
that time is being saved and that is spent into interviewing. Though some of the panels do miss the on-campus vibe, but I think virtual hiring is here to stay.
Right, right. Of course, it will be. I think, and people have adapted well to this. People have accepted it and adapted well to this. So then, I mean, just a quick question connected to this is, like while earlier it was like physical interviews, face-to-face interviews. I mean, it's still face-to-face, but it was a physical interview, and now it's a virtual. At the virtual platform, do you think in the form of evaluation, has there been some change in evaluating the candidates now, or is there a different pattern you look at while evaluating or while you are screening the candidates?
So the pivots remain the same because for us at Flipkart. In a virtual environment, what we've become cognizant of is the fact that there would be interruptions in connection, right? So a candidate may get logged off or a panel may get logged off. So we create some buffer for that. We also understand that in a virtual environment, it becomes important to give some bit of extra time to the candidate to get comfortable, right? So we have taken those into account and we sensitize our panels accordingly. But apart from that, if you talk about the interviewing pivots, the assessment parameters, all of them remain the same. What used to happen, right, like face to face is now behind the camera. You have live coding screens, right, where candidates and the panel can code simultaneously and solve. So those things have actually come to the aid and ensured that the experience remains seamless.
Great, great. Okay, Zen. So I'll just quickly. So which is again connected to the pandemic, and with the second wave of pandemic coming, and do you? I mean, what according to you, what are the industry sentiments? Do you feel hiring plans would be impacted again? I mean, because I mean, as you just mentioned, it did not impact much for Flipkart. However, on the contrary, there are organizations where hirings were impacted. So do you feel, I mean, what are the industry sentiments with the ongoing, again, another wave of pandemic? Do you feel hiring plans would be impacted?
For the industry per se, if we talk about e-commerce or even if I take the larger tech industry, I foresee a boom rather than a decline. And that is because everything is going digital and the adoption is increased because of the pandemic. So I don't foresee things like last year happening, especially in the tech industry, specifically more so in the e-commerce one. That people will go back on offers or something like that, which happened in some of the firms. But there might be certain sectors which are impacted though, say a manufacturing or something which is more linked to on ground stuff. That is where there could be impact, but at least e-commerce and tech industry will actually, my gut feeling is that it will hire much more than what it did in the previous season.
Oh, that's very, I mean, that's good to hear, Zen. Thanks for sharing the positive news. Yeah. So Zen, I think we've covered most of the questions, and thank you for sharing all your thoughts, all your perspectives. I feel many of those things could be adapted by our trainees, by the students. So in the end, I mean, would you like to share anything for all the students who aspire to get into Flipkart, all the trainees who aspire to get into Flipkart? Anything you want to share in the end? Anything you like your words of wisdom for them?
Uh, I'll paraphrase what probably we have covered because those
Yeah.
were nuggets which will be useful for them. So one is, step one, if you're aiming for a company, do your research, see what are the platforms that the company is hiring. You may not be from the campus that the company is visiting, but you still have a chance, right? So for us at Flipkart, we have Grid, which is coming up in the next month, which will be open to a much larger audience this year compared to last time. Similarly, other organizations that you're aiming for may have something or the other, and do your research. Second step is practice, practice, practice. That is the mantra that can help you crack any interview. And the third is believe in yourself and be confident, and always constantly keep skilling yourself. Don't feel that what you've done during college is good enough. Most of the people that whenever they start their career, be it an engineer, be it a commerce graduate, be it anyone, right? Once you hit the industry, you realize that what you studied is something which does not probably will 100% prepare you for on the job skills, right? So it is very important to keep on upskilling and connecting with your seniors, getting that guidance throughout, which will help you land your dream job. And if it's Flipkart, you will have a lot of avenues to come into Flipkart through various gamified constructs that we have and on-campus constructs that we have. That's it from my end, Vikas, and wishing all the audience who are part of the session all the best for their career, all the best for their journeys, and wish them that they stay safe and sound during this pandemic.
Thank you so much, Zen, for sharing all your thoughts, all your insights. I'll quickly reiterate what you just mentioned for the benefit of our audience. Research and homework is really important. I think that comes top on the list. Practice as much as you can. Confidence is another key. Upskilling is really, really important. There are ample of avenues where or through which you can upskill yourself, and that is really important. And of course, connect with your seniors, connect with your peers to get more awareness. So Zen, thank you for sharing all these insights. It was great having you for our first episode of What Industry Wants. And you stay safe, and again, the same wishes for all our audiences. Stay safe, maintain all the necessary precautions. All the best, everyone. Bye, Zen. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Vikas. Thank you so much.
It was a great session. I hope all of you enjoyed it. We will be sharing a Google form with you where you can post in your questions as well. We'll be doing these sort of events every now and then, so keep following us on our own social media channels like Instagram and LinkedIn, and so that you will be up to tune and you'll know what all is happening around. There on the chat, you can find that we have posted a Google form. Please respond to the Google form with your questions, and we'll be happy to help you to revert back with answers. I hope all of you enjoyed the session. Thank you very much for tuning in. I know there's an IPL match going on, so you can catch up there. Great. Have a good evening, and thank you again.